Emma jolted awake to the sound of muffled crying. For a moment, she thought it was the echo of one of her own dreams. But then she turned, and there was Lily, her 5-year-old granddaughter, sitting upright in bed, clutching her worn teddy bear and whispering, "Grandma, please don't leave me. I'm so scared." Emma's heart stopped. She reached for the little girl, pulling her close, whispering comfort until Lily's trembling eased. But the unease clung to Emma long after dawn painted the floorboards with streaks of gold. Something was wrong. By the time Emma set scrambled eggs and warm milk on the kitchen table, Lily shuffled in, her hair tangled and her eyes swollen as if she had cried all night. She sat down without a word, hugging her bear tighter. Emma tried to sound cheerful. "I made your favorite, sweetheart. Eat a little for Grandma." Lily lowered her head, her voice barely a whisper. "Mommy said I can't tell you what I saw at home." Emma's hands froze on the spatula. Her throat tightened. "What did you see, darling?" she asked softly, crouching so she could look into Lily's eyes. Tears welled as the child whispered, each word sharp as a knife. "There's a little girl locked in the basement. She never stops crying. She says her hands hurt." The spoon slipped from Emma's hand, clattering against the tile floor. Milk sloshed over the rim of the glass, dripping onto the table. For a moment, the world tilted. She gathered Lily into her arms, feeling her tiny frame shake like a bird in a storm. Emma's mind spun. Could it be imagination? A child's nightmare? But the raw terror in Lily's eyes told her this was no story. Later that morning, Emma walked Lily to school, her grip on the small hand firm, protective. She found herself lingering at the classroom door until she pulled aside Mrs. Harris, the teacher. In a low voice, Emma shared what Lily had told her. The teacher's face tightened. "I've noticed changes in Lily too. She's distracted. Sometimes she just stares into space." And in art class, Mrs. Harris paused, lowering her voice even more. "She keeps drawing a little girl in a dark room, with black lines all around her. Like bars." Emma's stomach dropped. Bars. A basement. A child crying. She left the school numb, the weight of dread pressing her chest until she could barely breathe. On the walk home, every step felt heavier than the last. That afternoon, Emma sat on her porch, the autumn wind scattering brittle leaves across the yard. She barely noticed until her neighbor, George, stopped by. His cane tapped against the step as he peered at her with concern. "You look pale, Emma. Something wrong?" She hesitated. Part of her wanted to bury it, to believe it wasn't real. But then she remembered Lily's whisper, her wide eyes drowning in fear. Emma's voice came out unsteady. "Lily told me, she saw a girl in Jenna's basement. A girl who's hurt. I don't know what to do." George's expression darkened, his jaw tightening. "Then don't waste another second," he said firmly. "If a child's in danger, you call the police. Right now." Emma's hand trembled as she reached for the phone. For a long time, she had prayed for peace in her broken family, for her daughter-in-law to heal after losing her son, for Lily to grow up safe and whole. But this was no longer about sorrow or healing. It was about saving a child. And as the dispatcher's voice answered on the other end of the line, Emma knew she had just stepped into a storm from which none of their lives would ever return unchanged. Emma felt her chest tighten as George leaned closer, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Emma, there's something I've never told anyone. Last week, I couldn't sleep, so I stepped out into the yard. I saw Jenna rushing inside, and she wasn't alone. She was holding a little girl's hand." His expression darkened. "I'm certain it wasn't Lily. It was late, past midnight." And, he paused, hesitating, as if speaking the words might make them too real. "I heard a muffled sob. At the time, I convinced myself it must have been Lily, maybe sick, maybe crying. But after hearing you now. Emma's pulse thundered in her ears. Her hands dug into her coat as if to anchor herself. George, are you sure? Her voice shook. Did you get a good look? He nodded slowly. Not clear enough to see a face, but I know it wasn't Lily. This girl was smaller, with short hair. I didn't want to accuse Jenna unfairly, but Emma, you need to be careful. His words fell over her like stones, heavy and suffocating. A horrible picture was beginning to take shape in her mind. That evening, when Jenna arrived to pick up Lily, Emma stood at the doorway, heart pounding. Jenna's sharp gaze cut into her, cold and calculating, as though weighing just how much she knew. Thanks for keeping an eye on Lily, Jenna said coolly, her voice stripped of any warmth. Lily clutched her teddy bear, Milo, and hid behind her mother. Her wide eyes, full of unspoken fear, sought Emma's, pleading silently. Emma wanted to keep her there, to ask her more, but Jenna's glare was a blade, slicing off her courage. Without another word, Jenna yanked Lily's hand and pulled her away. Emma lingered at the door long after they were gone, watching the silhouettes vanish into the night. A weight pressed so hard on her chest that she could scarcely breathe. By dawn, she knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. She dressed, wrapped a scarf around her shoulders, and boarded the first bus into town. The world outside the fogged bus window felt foreign, distant. When the police station finally appeared, its cracked walls and faded paint only deepened her unease. Inside, the air smelled of damp paper and stale coffee. Emma forced herself to the desk. Her hands trembled, but she kept her voice steady. I need to speak to whoever is in charge. Minutes later, she was led to a small room where Detective Morales sat behind a scarred wooden desk. He looked weary, his eyes carrying the weight of too many sorrows. Emma sat across from him, clasping her coat tightly. She told him everything, Lily's whispers of a girl locked in the basement, Mrs. Harris's account of the disturbing drawings, George's late-night sighting of Jenna with an unfamiliar child. Her voice trembled, but she pressed on, each word a desperate plea for someone to believe. Sir, I know it sounds unbelievable, but Lily isn't lying. My granddaughter is terrified. I'm certain something terrible is happening. Morales listened without interrupting, his fingers tapping a slow rhythm on the desk. When she finished, he exhaled heavily and shook his head. Ma'am, I understand your concern, he said, voice flat. But right now, all we have is the word of a child, some drawings, and a neighbor's story. That isn't enough for a judge to sign off on a search warrant. Emma felt as though ice water had been thrown across her face. Her whole body went cold. What if there really is a child in danger, she asked, her voice breaking. What if Lily's right? Every minute we wait could mean. Morales's eyes softened for just a moment, but his tone remained guarded. We'll file your report, but you'll have to wait. We need stronger evidence. Her throat ached with words she couldn't force out. All she could manage was a quiet, thank you, before standing on unsteady legs and leaving the station. Outside, the sun blazed down, yet she felt nothing but cold. On her way home, she tried to lose herself in routine, stopping at the grocery store. But whispers followed her through the aisles. Poor Emma, she's losing it, one cashier murmured. Who accuses their own daughter-in-law of kidnapping? The words sliced through her. Jenna had already spun her web, poisoning the neighbors against her. By the time Emma returned home, the weight of shame pressed heavier than ever. That evening, Jenna arrived again, this time with her brother. She didn't step inside, instead, she stayed in the yard, clutching Lily and sobbing into Kevin's shoulder. She's slandering me, Kevin, Jenna wailed loud enough for the neighbors to hear. She says I'm kidnapping kids. She's trying to ruin my life. I just want to be a good mom, and she does this to me. Kevin marched toward Emma, his face hard, his finger jabbing the air. Leave my family alone. Who do you think you are, spreading lies about my sister? Neighbors gathered, their curious stares burning into Emma. She's just lonely, one whispered. Missing her son and granddaughter. Poor woman's not thinking straight. Emma wanted to scream, to shout the truth, but her voice caught in her throat. Across the yard, through the car window, Lily's eyes met hers. They were filled with sorrow and fear, silently begging, "Grandma, don't stop trying." The engine roared to life, and Jenna drove away. Emma remained standing in the yard, the neighbors' murmurs buzzing in her ears like flies. That night, she collapsed into her armchair, staring at the smiling photograph of her late son, Daniel. "What should I do?" she whispered, her voice cracking. The house answered only with silence. By morning, even the grocer avoided her. But then Rose, her oldest friend, found her by the fence. She gripped Emma's hands firmly. "I saw Lily's face last night. That child was terrified. Emma, don't let them silence you. If you stop now, you'll regret it forever." Her words lit a small flame inside Emma's despair. That afternoon, while trimming the bougainvillea in her yard, she heard hurried steps. George appeared, clutching an old cell phone. His eyes were grave. "Emma, you need to see this." Inside, he pulled up a grainy security video. Emma's heart lurched. The footage showed Jenna, hurrying into her house under the cover of night, holding the hand of a little girl. Not Lily, this child was smaller, with short, tangled hair, dressed in worn pajamas. She looked frightened, stumbling to keep up. Emma's breath caught. "George, are you sure?" "I saw it with my own eyes," he said firmly. "And the camera caught it too. That girl wasn't Lily." Emma clutched the phone like a lifeline. With her voice breaking, she whispered, "Thank you." Moments later, wrapped in her old coat and scarf, she was back at the police station. This time, she walked straight to Morales's office and placed the phone on his desk. "Sir," she said, her voice trembling but resolute, "please. Watch this." He studied the footage, brows furrowed. "Could be a friend's child," he muttered. Emma leaned forward, desperation rising in her voice. "No. That little girl doesn't belong to anyone in our town. I've lived here for decades, I know every face. And Lily, my granddaughter, has been whispering about a girl in the basement. A girl crying that her hands hurt. Detective, this is not imagination. Please, look again." For the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. He called an officer over. "Check missing child reports in nearby towns." Minutes later, the officer froze, eyes widening at the screen. "Detective, this matches a case. Sophie, 5 years old. Reported missing 2 weeks ago from the next town." Morales's face hardened instantly. "Confirm it. Contact their precinct. Get me the file." Emma's eyes stung with tears she struggled to hold back. "Thank you," she whispered. Just then, neighbors entered the station, Mrs. Elena, who sold tamales, and Mr. Miguel, the old chess player. Both looked uneasy but determined. "Detective," Elena began, "we've heard crying at Jenna's house, strange noises late at night. We thought it was just Lily, but..." Miguel added, "I saw lights flickering in the basement before dawn. Didn't think much at the time, but now it makes sense." Their testimonies snapped the final pieces of the puzzle into place. Morales nodded, his expression grave. "There's enough here," he said. "We'll request a warrant immediately." Emma sat back, trembling, as tears finally spilled down her cheeks. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope. Fragile, but real. She left the station with the weight on her shoulders lighter than it had been in a long time, though her heart still ached. Somewhere out there, Sophie was waiting to be saved, and Lily was counting on her to be brave. And Emma knew she would not stop until both girls were safe. The rain tapped against the roof like an endless drum, keeping Emma awake through the night. She sat in her dimly lit living room, staring at the framed photo of her late son, Daniel. His smile was tender, his eyes gentle, yet tonight they seemed to watch her with unspoken words. Be strong, Mom. Protect Lily. Emma folded her hands tightly, whispering into the silence, Daniel, please, help me. Help me keep Lily safe. And that other little girl, Sophie. She doesn't even know me, but she's part of this now. Don't let her suffer. Her voice cracked as she remembered Lily's frightened whispers, Sophie's broken figure on that video George had shown her, the torn pajamas, the stumbling steps. Each memory was a wound, but also fuel for her resolve. She could not let those girls endure another night of pain. Yet fear gnawed at her, fear that the truth might shatter what was left of her family. Jenna had once been like a daughter to her, calling her Mom, sharing Sunday dinners, laughing with Daniel. Now Jenna stood on the other side of the truth, and Emma dreaded the moment when all the secrets would finally spill into the open. At sunrise, Emma clung to her routines, hoping to still her racing thoughts. She walked to the grocery store, her scarf pulled close around her face. But whispers followed her. Poor Emma, a fruit vendor muttered. She's accusing Jenna again. Lost her son, and now she's lost her mind. She must miss her granddaughter so much she's imagining things, another replied. Emma lowered her head and hurried through the aisles. The stairs pierced deeper than any blade, but she no longer cared about gossip. Her only focus was Lily, and the mysterious Sophie trapped in Jenna's shadow. By noon, Rose, her dearest friend, arrived with a warm casserole. Setting it on the table, she took Emma's trembling hands in her own. Be brave, Rose urged gently. Don't let their talk silence you. The truth will come out. I'm scared, Emma confessed, her voice thin as thread. What if the truth is too terrible? What if I lose Lily, or what if I lose what's left of my family? Rose squeezed her hands tighter. You already lost Daniel, and you stood strong for Lily. Don't doubt yourself now. You're doing the right thing, Emma. For her. For both of them. Tears slid down Emma's cheeks. Thank you, she whispered. That evening, George appeared at her door, his cane tapping the porch, his face grave. I heard it again last night, he said in a low voice. Banging, like someone locked in, and sobs. I couldn't get closer, but something's wrong in that house, Emma. Her chest tightened. Do you think Sophie's still in there? George nodded, his eyes heavy. I don't know. But I pray the police don't wait too long. His words carved into her heart. That night, she called Mrs. Harris, Lily's teacher. Her voice quivered as she spoke into the receiver. If anything happens to me, please keep an eye on Lily. Promise me. Of course, Mrs. Harris replied without hesitation. I'll protect her. Relief touched Emma's heart, though the weight of dread pressed even harder. Before bed, she packed away Daniel's papers, family records, and Lily's drawings into a bag, readying herself for whatever might come. She sat before Daniel's photo and whispered, Son, I'll keep your daughter safe. I swear it. When the phone rang after midnight, she nearly dropped it. Detective Morales's voice came through, clipped and firm. Emma, tomorrow at dawn we're serving the warrant at Jenna's house. Be ready. Her hands shook as she gripped the receiver. Thank you, she managed, her voice breaking. By morning, she was dressed in her thick coat, scarf wrapped tightly, her bag clutched against her chest like a shield. She looked once more at Daniel's picture. Give me strength, son. Patrol cars arrived, their lights cutting through the early gray. Morales stepped out, expression unreadable. Let's go, he said. The ride was silent. Emma pressed her forehead to the cool glass, praying for courage. When they reached Jenna's house, the bougainvillea scattered red petals across the yard like drops of blood. Morales knocked firmly. The door opened, and Jenna appeared, her face pale with surprise, which quickly hardened into fury. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. Morales held up the warrant. "We're authorized to search." "Cooperate, Mrs. Reynolds." Her eyes flicked to Emma, sharp as knives. "You did this," she hissed. "You want to destroy me. You want to take Lily away." Emma stayed silent, gripping her coat, her throat too tight to speak. Kevin stormed into the doorway, his booming voice filling the yard. "This is private property. You're humiliating us. This is a trap set up by that old woman." He jabbed a finger at Emma, his face red with rage. Morales ignored him. Officers moved past, beginning their search. From the doorway, Emma saw Lily crouched in the corner of the living room, clutching her teddy bear, Milo, her eyes red from crying. Emma's heart broke, but Jenna's cold glare held her back. The officers reached the basement door, a rusted iron thing at the end of the hall. Emma saw Jenna's composure crack. "No!" Jenna cried, rushing to block it. "There's nothing in there. Just storage, you can't open it." Her panic was answer enough. An officer inserted a key. Kevin roared, lunging, but was held back by two men. The lock clicked, the door creaked open, and a stifling, musty air spilled out. From the darkness, a child's sob echoed. Faint. Broken. Emma's knees nearly gave out. Her eyes blurred with tears. A flashlight beam cut through the shadows, sweeping across walls, boxes, and then, there she was. Sophie. Small and frail, her face streaked with dust, her hair tangled. She stumbled forward, her thin body wrapped in filthy rags, her arm crudely bandaged. Emma gripped the porch post, gasping. "Sophie," she whispered. A female officer rushed in, scooping Sophie into her arms. "Get an ambulance," she cried. Sophie clutched a ragged cushion, shaking violently. "Mommy," she sobbed. "I want to go back to Mommy." Neighbors crowded the street, their voices a rising tide. "Oh my God. Carol was right all along." But Emma felt no victory. Only sorrow, for Sophie, for Lily, and for Jenna, who had once been family. Jenna's screams rang out, wild and desperate. "I didn't lock her up. I was protecting her." Tears streamed down her face, but her voice lacked conviction. Kevin still struggled against the officers, shouting, "It's a lie. This is all her doing." He pointed at Emma with venom in his eyes. Emma said nothing. Her silence was heavier than words. The officers searched further, uncovering notebooks filled with disturbing writings. Detective Morales flipped through them, his brow darkening. "Esteban Vargas," he muttered. "Leader of that extremist cult we've been tracking." The name thundered in Emma's ears. Jenna, her sweet daughter-in-law who once laughed at family dinners, tied to something so dark. She wanted to ask why, but her voice was lost. Jenna was handcuffed, dragged past Emma. Their eyes met, Jenna's full of hatred. "You destroyed everything," she spat. Emma's chest ached. She no longer recognized the woman before her. Sophie was carried to the ambulance. Emma wept, whispering prayers for the little girl and her mother. And she thought of Lily, still watching from the corner, silent and shaken. Later at the hospital, Emma stood in the hallway, watching through glass as Sophie's parents clung to their daughter, sobbing with joy. Mrs. Jackson gripped Emma's hand, whispering, "You saved her. You and Lily saved our child. We can never repay you." Emma shook her head, tears streaming. "The real hero is Lily. She was brave enough to speak the truth. Back in town, neighbors who once mocked her now lowered their heads in shame. Mrs. Elena, who sold tamales, whispered, "Forgive us, Emma. We should have believed you." But Emma didn't seek vindication. All she wanted was for Lily and Sophie to be safe. In the days that followed, the truth spread everywhere. Reporters filled the street. The police charged Jenna with kidnapping, unlawful detention, and ties to Vargas's cult. Kevin faced his own charges. Through it all, Emma held on to the sound of laughter returning to her porch. Lily and Sophie played together beneath the bougainvillea, Milo bouncing in Lily's arms. Sophie smiled shyly, her fear slowly fading. The Jacksons brought flowers and pie. Mrs. Jackson hugged Emma and said softly, "Please, be Sophie's grandmother too. She trusts you. She needs you." Emma's tears flowed as she hugged both girls. "I will," she whispered. "With all my heart." That night, as Lily curled into her side, she asked, "Grandma, am I really a hero?" Emma kissed her granddaughter's forehead. "Yes, my love. You are the bravest hero I've ever known. You spoke the truth when no one else would." Lily smiled, her eyes shining for the first time in weeks. "I love you, Grandma." Emma held her close, whispering through tears, "I love you too, Lily." Outside, the moonlight bathed the yard, and petals drifted down from the bougainvillea. Emma closed her eyes and whispered into the night, "Daniel, I kept my promise. Lily is safe. Sophie is safe. And you can be proud of us." For the first time in a long while, peace settled in her heart.